victim, who was 16 years of age, and his parents gave us permission to use his name as Stephen Rada. Let me first tell you about Stephen Rada. Stephen went to Frostproof High School. His parents said he was in 11th grade. He was to start work next week at Burger King to earn money so that he could buy a car. He was also studying to be an electrician. That was his dream in life. Stephen Rada, who's 16 years of age, was a great kid. Not just a good kid, but a great kid. In fact, he was living with his grandfather to help him out while his grandmother was in rehab. That's the kind of kid that Stephen was. Stephen Thomas Rada, his dad, had just shown up about a month ago. And we asked, where's he been? He's been in D.C., he's been in South Carolina, he's been in Ohio, he's been in Texas. There was even an outstanding warrant for Stephen Thomas Rada in South Carolina, but South Carolina would not extradite. So he was unable to be arrested. Well, on this particular morning, Thomas Rada, the grandfather, left about 8 o'clock to go visit with his wife in rehab. When he returned home about 11 o'clock today, he was met outside by our suspect, his son, Stephen Rada, and his quote was, "I wouldn't go in there if I was you. I killed someone. You may need to call the police." Thomas Rada told us it was not uncommon for his son, Stephen Rada, to talk bizarre. We are told that Stephen Rada used methamphetamine since high school, and he has psychotic episodes. When Thomas Rada went into the house, into the mobile home, there he saw his son, his grandson, deceased in the dining room, kitchen area. And we know that it appears at the early stage of the investigation. And as we always tell you, the information we give you this soon after an investigation is the best information we have. It's certainly subject to change. But at this time, it appears that our suspect, Stephen Thomas Rada, used an angle grinder to kill his son. It breaks our heart. There aren't adequate words to explain how horrific this event is. I've talked to the grandmother, the grandfather, the parents are here. And when you see and hear them talk about how wonderful Stephen Rada, their 16-year-old son, was, how squared away he was, the fact that he was willing to live with his grandfather to help him out while his grandmother was in rehab, the fact that he was scheduled to start working at Burger King next week to earn money while going to high school, he was just a stand-up, stellar young man. To have this worthless individual murder his son is inexplicable. Our homicide detectives will continue to do their work, the investigation. We, by the way, arrested him because he fled from the scene after talking to his father, Thomas Rada. He fled from the scene, and we caught him about a mile west of here on Highway 60. He was leaving the area. As I said before, he's been from Texas, South Carolina, Ohio, Washington, D.C. He moves around a lot. And after killing his son, he was leaving again. But our deputies, and you've heard me say they're the best there are any place, found him quickly and took him into custody. And when we took him into custody, he told our deputy, "You probably need to read me my rights." And that's exactly what we did. So he is in custody. The community's safe. We don't know yet why Stephen Thomas Rada attacked and murdered his son, Stephen Rada. That's under investigation. But our prayers are with the family. And I want you to know that the world lost a great young man today. We lost a great young man, and we've got an evil, evil man in custody, and we're going to do our best to see that he spends the rest of his life in prison. I don't know what else I can tell you. I'll try to answer any questions that you have. You know what we know at this time. Our crime scene detectives, as well as a homicide team, are at the residence. It was the warrant in South Carolina that was outstanding was some kind of resisting warrant, disturbance warrant, probably a misdemeanor warrant. We're still going through his criminal history. He apparently has criminal histories all over the United States. This guy has been nothing but a problem to society for a very long time, And now he's turned a problem person into an evil person when he murdered his son and created a horrible set of circumstances for a loving family. Certainly, if he'd have been in South Carolina, if that warrant had been available nationwide, he wouldn't have been here today, we hope. Depending on when we found him and extradited him, theoretically he could have posted bond and come back. So that's really a hypothetical. But listen, it's not uncommon for different states to say, hey, we've got a warrant for this person, but as long as he stays out of our state, we don't want to come get him. And that's true on minor charges, and apparently this is a minor charge. We're looking to see what his criminal history contains, and once we run all that down, then our PIOs will release that later on. But we know he's got an extensive criminal history. We know that he's an evil, evil person. We know that he murdered his son today. And that son was a beautiful 16-year-old person. A beautiful 16-year-old person who was just a great kid. Excuse me, I can't hear you.
Did the family report him having a violent history?
The family has reported that he's psychotic. He's got a history all the way back to high school of using methamphetamine. I don't know that about any Baker Acts or mental health evaluations, but he's just an evil person. And you go, well, he might have had a mental health issue. Well, of course he did. People don't murder people unless they're nutso. So anybody who murders somebody has a hitch in their giddy-up. That doesn't mean they're criminally insane. It just means they're evil and they're mean, and when things don't go their way, they kill people. So he told his father, hey, I've killed somebody in the house, you don't want to go in there? And then he takes off, he's leaving.